Good morning, everyone. And you're very, very welcome to Ignite Your Light this morning. I'm Anne-Marie Ireland, and this event is being brought to you by the ESCI, which is the Education Sports Centres of Ireland, and myself, Anne-Marie Ireland. And I just want to warmly welcome you to this very special online event that we have put together for you in support of all of you who are working so hard in bringing our schools back to life, in reopening our schools next week. I know that we have school leaders, teachers, SNAs, we have education centre directors with us this morning. We have admin staff from schools, everyone who is working so hard to reopen our schools. So I just want to warmly welcome all of you on behalf of the ESCI. So I know that you're exhausted, and I know that you're in need of some rest. And I know that you've come here today for that rest and for that recovery space. So I hope you've set up a lovely space for yourself at home this morning. I hope you have the cuppa beside you, whether it's the tea or the coffee, and I hope that you're getting yourself nice and comfy, because I do want you to have that space to rest and hopefully renew your energy as we move through the morning. I know some of you are here for the whole morning with us, and I know some of you will be here for an hour or two. So whatever you can manage, but I do hope that you can come away to this quiet place with us. So before I talk to you, I'm going to be with you until about 20 to 10. But before I go into what I want to talk to you about this morning, about what's going on with education at the moment, and how we're going to mind ourselves and how we're going to ignite our lights. I do want to go through a few logistics with you about the morning first, just to guide you through and to let you know how we're going to go through the morning. So first of all, I'm going to chat to you for a little while, if that's okay. And I'm going to do a little breathing, a recovery moment exercise with you, so that I'm hoping you can bring that into your everyday teaching life once next week hits. Although I'd love if you were able to do it from today onwards, even before you go back to school. Following that, we're going to have some gorgeous music to hopefully calm the mind, to soothe the body, and to uplift the spirit. So we have the lovely vocalies with us. Following that, we're going to have Celia and Siobhan from the SCI with some warm words of welcome for you all. And following that, then we're going to have our keynote speaker, Jacinta Kish, who's going to speak to you about proactively caring for yourself. And that'll be about 9:55 or so. And following that, around 10:45, there's going to be, you can see your chat bar there, there's going to be 3 links put into your chat bar. And in those links, you'll see labeled the different workshops. So you're going to have Ignite Your Light Chair Yoga for Support with Paula Byrne. You're going to have Margaret Foley, who's going to bring light to your nutrition. And we have the gorgeous Grace Tempany doing Bring Light to your yin practice, your stillness practice for emotional well-being. So that's our first kind of block of workshops. So you just choose one and just go into your workshop and really enjoy it and rest yourself. And then do pop back to me at about maybe 11:45. We're going to have the tea and coffee break then. And I'm going to have a presentation for you there where you can maybe get inspired and maybe just read a few words from me to you at that point. And at 12 noon then, I'm going to put up 3 more links. You'll see, well, the IMS guys are going to put 3 more links up. And what we're going to do then is you're going to see the 3 workshops from session 2. So you'll have Paula Byrne again, but this time she's going to be doing Ignite Your Light breathing space meditation. Then you're going to have Margaret Foley again, but this time she's going to be doing Bring Light to Your Physical Wellbeing. And then we have Jack Durkin, who's going to do Ignite Your Light Wellbeing for Men. So choosing one of those, enjoying it, and then please do pop back to me at about 10 to 1, because we're going to do a lovely meditative practice with our candle. And we're going to light our candle of hope, and we're going to do a little meditation together, and then some more lovely music from Vocalies to I suppose uplift us a little bit and send us off today, hopefully with your light ignited at that point. There is a hashtag Ignite Your Light, so if you are sharing anything on social media, please do use the hashtag, and you can tag Teacher Breathing Space Ireland, the Facebook page if you want to, or any of our presenters as well. So yeah, that's our logistics for today. We are recording the event as well. So just so you'll know that we are recording this webinar at the moment. So what do I want to say to you this morning? I want to say a lot to you, but I understand how tired you are. And this has been a tough week. And these are what we might call dark times. And let's call a spade a spade. It is very tough on educators at the moment. It's tough on all of us. But with the reopening of schools, we have fear, we have anxiety. I'm running the page and there's many, many messages every day from really concerned educators. And that is why the ESCI and myself were absolutely determined that a few days before you will go back to school, we knew that there would be overwhelm. We were predicting it going on what has happened since March 12th. So we really wanted you to come together and to sit in a space and just to rest yourself and to recover and hopefully to restore and renew energy. And that's what we wanted to do for you. But what does Ignite Your Light actually mean? What does that mean? Well, what it means is that we're not talking about filling ourselves up today, filling our cup, filling our well of energy, as I call it, and then handing it all over to everyone else. You know, the minute that we feel we've a little bit of energy, by handing it over. Ignite Your Light is different to that. There's an old saying, I don't know if you've ever heard of it before, but it's like the candle. So the teacher, the educator, is like the candle that has to burn itself down in order to light the way for others. So we're throwing that analogy out today. What we are talking about today is we're talking about actually filling ourselves up, igniting our own light so that we can be a light. In that way, we are calmer, we are more settled in ourselves. Even in the midst of a storm, we're able to center ourselves, we're minding ourselves, we're grounding ourselves, and we're able to use our feet and our breath and our self-care practice to ignite that light and keep it ignited so that it doesn't dim. And it's about being the light then. I hope that makes sense. And that you're not going to get cross at me for saying that we're going to be the light for everyone else, because that's not what I mean. I mean to be the light for yourself first, so that you feel grounded and you feel okay. Normally, in my courses and workshops, I work off 8 pillars of well-being. At the moment, I'm looking at 4, okay? So I'm looking at, because we're in a mode where we have to schedule in self-care for overwhelm. And we have to look at specific things that we can do, practices that we can actually do, things that we can do. And by coming here today, that is a huge first step in doing that. By you being here with us all today as educators, that is saying, I'm valuing myself. So I hope when I go through the 4 kind of steps or the 4 pillars that I'm going to offer to you, and then I'm going to do a nice breathing exercise with you, I hope that it makes sense to you, and I hope you can take them on board, because we do need to value ourselves as educators. What you have done since March 12th has absolutely blown me away at what happened on March 12th, the way that our educators took an education system and moved it online. Our education centres were absolutely the beating heart of our whole education system at that time. And then everyone was coming on doing these amazing webinars and upskilling. It was innovative, creative, the professionalism, the determination. And that shows great courage and great strength, okay? And I know that it has been very tough, and many school leaders have actually not had a day off since March 12th and are burnt out and are exhausted. So I hope that you can take some of this on board to value yourself today. I think that's really important. So the first thing I'll say to you about that is the amygdala and the stress response. For people who know me, you know I'm always talking about this, to become aware that since the pandemic hit, there are alarm bells going off inside our brains all the time, and our amygdala is firing off. So the nervous system is overactive. So we are trying to navigate new terrain with opening the schools and doing everything else in our lives as well, with alarm bells going off inside our brain, which is very difficult because it hijacks our emotions. It's very difficult to stay concentrated on something, very difficult to focus on something, and you're not going to be as productive as you normally would. And one minute you might feel okay, and the next minute you're feeling anxious. That is a physiological response in your body, in your brain, because the brain, the primal part of our brain, is perceiving a threat, okay? And that's really important for us to understand, so we can have more compassion for ourselves going back to school, that we can understand, I am going to feel overwhelmed and I need to schedule in my self-care practice for that. I am going to feel really stressed. I am going to feel anxious. and that to have a little bit more compassion and understanding and not pushing yourself. Take your foot off the accelerator, go a bit more gently and a bit lighter with yourself, because it is a physiological response that's happening. So have some self-compassion, try to. The second thing I'll say to you is, and I'm always saying this as well, about our recovery breathing, okay? And I'm going to do that with you in a moment. So because the alarms are going off and the nervous system is overactive, we want to be able to try and bring our nervous system into what's called the parasympathetic. The sympathetic is when it's overactive, parasympathetic is when we're calming it down. And all the adrenaline starts to settle in the body, and we can do that ourselves. We're going to do it, we're going to practice it in a couple of moments. So we want to use our breath, we want to use our feet, we want to use our senses to make us present and to have those recovery breaths and build them in the classroom, in the car, on the way to school, on the way home from school. And these are part of our simple acts of self-devotion that we are going to fill ourselves up with. We're going to ignite our light, and then we can be the light, which is much, much easier. There's a lot less strain on us when we are grounded and we are calm and we can be the light, rather than really handing everything over, because our role, as we know, is based on a purpose or a vocation. It's, you know, I'm doing my research at the moment, and there, you know, loads and loads of literature will show us that when teachers say, why did I become a teacher? Why did I become an educator? Why am I in this caring profession? Because I want to make a difference. And we have to have our light ignited in order to do that. And that gives us a sense of purpose, and it aligns us with our values and our beliefs as well. So we kind of sit into ourselves, but we can't do any of that until we are grounded in our breath and in our feet, okay? That's number 2. Number 3 is, be so careful of social media, of your WhatsApp groups, of, you know, I know you've got a lot of staff meetings happening and you're going into the building, the school building, to, you know, sort out your classrooms, and school leaders, you are just sorting everything. So, and SNAs and so on. So it's really important that if you feel triggered, or if you feel fearful, or if, you know, you can feel yourself getting triggered, to try and just move away from that, because people are fearful at the moment. And it's funny, because for years and years in the workshops, we talked about the virus, which is funny now. We talked about fear being, not fear, we talked about calm, sorry, being a virus, which is lovely. It's a nicer virus. So it's like as if if you're the teacher, the school leader, and you feel calmer, then you're going to have a calmer classroom or a calmer school. If you're more grounded, that's what's going to happen. But unfortunately, fear is the same, and it's a virus, and it can catch on so quickly. So for your WhatsApp groups, social media, all of that, there's a lot of fear this week. There's a lot going on with the government. There's a lot going on with schools, and I know there's a lot of fear there for you as an educator going back in. So trying to follow those guidelines and so on. So try to move away from that. And the fourth thing I would say to you about your well-being at the moment is supporting one another. And we're doing that right now today, joining together here at Ignite Your Light. That's what we're doing. We're supporting each other as educators. And that is feeding right into valuing our role again. What is an educator? An educator, what are you doing every day? You're guiding, you are protecting, you are caring, you're being a counselor, you are being a leader, you are being an influencer of young hearts and minds. That is a big deal. And that is about valuing that role. And you might say to me, well, Anne-Marie, do you know what? That's just, you know, that's not good enough for me. I want to be valued by society. I want to be valued by the system. So do I, and so do all of us. But the thing is, I really want us to hear this message that we need to value ourselves first, and we go from there. Is that okay? So in any relationship, we value ourselves first, and then we tell the world, I am valued. That is what we're saying. So this action of coming here today, that is your first action of self-devotion to yourself, and saying that you place a high value. You're investing time in yourself this morning at Ignite Your Light, going to all of these workshops, listening to our keynote, and sitting in your comfortable space, I hope. Or maybe you're listening to me as you're putting the kettle on now, I don't know. But it is about valuing ourselves again. And even though you might be cross at me for saying that, you know, to value ourselves first, But I really believe this, and I've seen it for 10 years. I've been working in wellbeing and education with school leaders, teachers, SNAs. I've been working with school communities for almost 10 years in wellbeing. And I've been I was a teacher myself, primary school teacher. And I've seen it time after time when teachers come into me, burnt out, they come into me and they're cynical and they're just exhausted from the system and their light has dimmed. And all they do is that they sit in a space and they start to value themselves and their light starts to become brighter. And then they go into a classroom and their classroom starts to thrive. Their personal life starts to thrive. It might take a little bit of time, but their whole life begins to light up. And I have been in touch with these teachers, some of them for a long, long time, and I have seen them. And where did they start? They started valuing themselves with tiny acts of self-devotion, small breathing recovery moments, maybe moving on to a short walk after school, maybe moving on to maybe saying to a staff member next week or this week when you go in to set up, you know, your classroom or set up the building or whatever you are doing, whatever your role is in whether you're an SNA, a school leader, a teacher, and about going in and saying, do you know what, I'm actually feeling a bit overwhelmed. And a teacher messaged me the other day and she was a bit nervous going into school because, you know, like yourselves, setting everything up. And she said, you know what, I went in, I told my principal I was feeling overwhelmed and I had a little cry and she was so supportive to me. And now I feel a bit better. And it's not okay that we're crying. It's not okay that we're overwhelmed, but it is where we need to be, is we need to support one another and we need to value our roles. So we need to be able to move on into other acts of self-devotion, like saying we're not okay today, accepting and having self-compassion about that, understanding that everything won't be perfect in your classroom. And that's not okay, but that is how it is at the moment. But it's you accepting that. And it's you saying, okay, I'm going to do my best with this. A school leader saying, this is what I have. This is the time, energy, and resources that I have as a principal. So I am going to do what I can with that time, energy, and resources, and know that that is enough. And in a couple of weeks, hopefully we'll know better. And then, as Maya Angelou would say, when we know better, we'll do better. But this pressure on ourselves, it just has to ease now, guys, because, you know, the level of the waves that are rolling in, the waves of anxiety and the waves of fear, us not investing in ourselves now and us not scheduling our self-care is the equivalent of us putting our two hands up to those waves, expecting those waves not to take us over. So what we want to do is, self-care is going to be our surfboard, okay? We're going to surf the waves. And if you are minding yourself little bit by little bit, there's 1,440 minutes in a day. Take one of those minutes. That's what I always say to educators. Take 1 minute of the day first. Begin there. 1 glass of water, 5-minute walk. Begin in tiny, tiny steps. Take the foot off the accelerator. Slow your feet down on the corridor. You know, I've met so many school leaders and teachers who run on, I did it myself, run down a corridor. If there's an emergency, run. If there isn't, slow right down. You'll still get there and it will be okay. Go a little bit gentler and a little bit lighter with yourself. So now I'm going to do a little breathing exercise with you, just to give you an example of what I've been talking about. And I'm going to use, like I always do, this, which is my Tibetan bowl, and I'm going to make the sound of the bowl, and I'm just going to ask you to close your eyes down. So if you're sitting, I hope, in a comfortable chair, you could still be in the laba, you could be in the PJs, even better if you are, okay? So just to listen to the sound of the bowl now and just closing your eyes down gently. And we'll just take a couple of moments now as we all gather together as educators. And we're just going to notice all the sounds you can hear outside the space you are in now. Just noticing those sounds. What is the furthest away sound you can hear right now, in this moment? Can you notice now the sounds inside the space you are in? Just noticing. Can you notice the weight of your body now? On the chair you're sitting on, the bed you're lying on, the couch you're lying on, the floor you're lying on. Just noticing the weight of your body now and the points of contact between your body and the chair, the couch, the floor, the bed. Just noticing. I wonder now if you can bring attention to your breathing. You don't need to change it right now. Just notice it. The breath going into your body and the breath leaving your body. The rise and fall of your chest as you breathe in and breathe out. Just noticing. And when all those busy thoughts, anxious thoughts, fearful thoughts about next week, about this week even, when they're all coming in, flooding in, that's okay. That's just the way the mind works. We're not trying to stop the mind in these breathing recovery moments. We're just noticing those thoughts, labeling them with the word thinking, like a sticky label, and bringing attention back to our breathing again, because we are in charge of our attention, even in the midst of a storm. Bringing all of your attention now down into your feet, wiggling your toes. If you're in your bare feet, noticing the temperature of the floor. Noticing the muscles moving inside your feet now. Bringing ourselves out of the sympathetic nervous system and bringing ourselves right into the parasympathetic. Bringing ourselves into recovery mode. And now I'd like you to take a nice long deep breath in through your nose, really gently. And as you exhale it, just try dropping your shoulders a little, softening the stomach muscles, and just softening the leg muscles and bringing attention right down into your feet. Let's try that again now on your next breath whenever you're ready, breathing in gently through your nose. And as you exhale, dropping the shoulders, softening the stomach muscles, and exhaling right down into the legs and into the feet. Bringing ourselves right down, soothing those alarm bells in the brain. We can control our nervous system if we can just bring in these recovery breaths throughout the day. Can you notice any smells in the room now? Just notice. Using our senses to bring us into the present, allowing all of that adrenaline to drain from the system and allowing that to clear a little bit. And when the body gets used to doing this, day after day, it becomes automatic. When the stress response kicks in, the calm response will kick in instead of hijacking us, even in these challenging times. Noticing all the sounds both inside and outside the space you were in again. And whenever you feel ready and comfortable, you can gently open your eyes. And let's just shake it all out now, just taking a nice long deep breath in again. And just letting it go. You can feel that adrenaline draining, I hope, already. So everyone, I hope that that has helped a little bit. I hope that you have felt that that recovery breath, that simple exercise, the breath is so powerful, and our feet. Get a little post-it note, put the word breath, put the word feet on it, put it by the kettle, put it at your laptop, put it at your desk in school. And every time you look at it, you can do that even with the children or the students in front of you. Okay, everyone. So this part of the morning, I'm going to bring you into introducing our lovely musical treat that we have for you. I'm going to introduce to you a singing trio who are very close to my heart. made up of Nuala Kelly, their musical director, Vivian Graham, and Georgina Ireland Cathcart, who's my sister. And this group, they are very special professional singers, but when they come together, they give songs what they call the Vocalese treatment. So I asked them, could we choose some songs that were specially for you today as our educators, needing some calm, needing some soothing, and needing maybe a little bit of our spirits uplifted in these times. So they came up with 2 songs that are absolutely so beautiful. So I hope that you can hear the lyrics. Go gently, go lightly, continue to bring your wisdom, have faith and trust in yourself, in living and learning and leading. So I'd like to introduce to you now the wonderful, with the song Go Gently, Go Lightly, the wonderful Vocalese.
Go gently, go lightly, go safe as you journey. You simply don't carry much more than you need. Go trusting your goodness, go spreading life's kindness. Stay centered, stay hopeful, and trust where it leads. Go singing, go bringing the gifts of your wisdom. Go hopefully searching for things that are true. In living, in learning, whatever befalls you, keep leading, keep trusting in all that you do. Go gently, go lightly, go safe as you journey. Live simply, don't carry much more than you need. Go trusting your goodness, go spreading life's kindness. Stay centered, stay hopeful, and trust where it leads.
Sorry, I was muted there. So thank you so much, the wonderful Vocalese, for that Go Gently, Go Lightly. And like I said, the girls had rewritten and remastered that song, especially for you returning to school. So I hope that you can take, you'll always hear me or see me saying Go Gently, Go Lightly on the posts. So I really hope that you can take the foot off the pedal and just pull it back a little bit and take a breath when you need it. So up next now, we have the 2 wonderful ladies from the Education Sports Centres of Ireland, who are going to have a few words of welcome for you now. So first of all, we have Celia Walsh, who is the chairperson of the ESCI, and she's also the director of Waterford Teachers Centre. And then we have Siobhan Kavanagh, who is the director of Kildare Education Centre. And I know that the ladies, they're just absolutely fantastic. The ESCI have been amazing in supporting educator well-being since the beginning of the pandemic. So I'll pass you over to the ladies now.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Celia Walsh, as Director in Waterford and Chairperson of ESCE. I would like, on behalf of the Education Support Network, to thank Anne-Marie and to thank Siobhan Kavanagh, my colleague in Kildare, for organising this really beneficial event today. I also want to acknowledge the great technical support and help of the IMS organisation. We've been collaborating with them on CPD events, innovative CPD events over the last few months, and this event is a development of that, and it's been a great relationship. Anne-Marie has worked with our centres in the past, providing support and providing information to teachers in regard to how they can develop helpful strategies in regard to their own well-being and self-care over the past few years. And this event today is a further development of that, but at a new level within the online space, and we're absolutely delighted to be associated with it. And we thank her for her great initiative and innovation in creating this event today. The numbers that have signed up for this event, provide evidence to ourselves of the need out there for teachers to reach out for help and support, especially going forward into the challenging few weeks of reopening our schools safely. And we understand that these needs will only grow over the coming weeks. So in that regard, I would like to encourage all of you to reach out to centres for any need that you have professionally in terms of your own learning, in terms of health and safety in your schools, and any other area you feel we could benefit you with. And if you reach out to your local centre and seek that support, it will be available. We will do absolutely our best to help you and the other colleagues in the school in reopening your schools safely. And I wish you all well in that regard over the coming weeks. And I wish you a really enjoyable morning, and thank you.
Thank you, Celia. I'd like to welcome everyone to Ignite Your Light as well. We are living through unusual times, and in March, when the school closures happened, I approached Anne-Marie to see what we could do to support educators. Our midday moments, which we collaborated on at that time, were a big success. And as a follow-on from that, we wanted to provide a space to support you to prepare for the term ahead. We know how committed you are to supporting the well-being of your school communities, and particularly the well-being of your students. And we are here to try and support you within that. All of this and the idea that Anne-Marie came up with about igniting your light reminds me of a story I once heard, which is set back in the 1900s. At a time when somebody had to physically go around and light each street lamp. The British critic and social theorist John Ruskin once sat with a friend in the dusk of an evening and watched a lamplighter, torch in hand, lighting the street lights on a distant hill. Very soon the man's form was no longer distinguishable in the distance, but everywhere he went, he left a light burning brightly. This is how I see educators. You're the ones that ignite a light in those that you teach. Eventually, no one will see where the light came from, but it is there and it comes from you. But in order to do this, you must ignite your own light first. And that's why we're here today. I hope you enjoy today, and we look forward to greeting you back into our education centres around Ireland over the next year. And I will leave you with one little thought: travel light, live light, be the light, and spread the light. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Celia and Siobhan, for those really wonderful words of welcome and wisdom. And thank you so much for that. And really eloquent, really beautiful words there. And I think what Siobhan was saying there about, I loved what she said about being the light and spreading the light and actually igniting the light in others. And I think we're not to be afraid of that. It's not that we may not realize, that phrase where we don't realize the influence as a teacher or as a school leader in SNA, we don't realize the influence we have. And through the pandemic, since March 12th, you have been an influencer. I kept thinking every day about the support that was going out into households that were really struggling. and the support that went out from you through a screen or through an email or through phone or whatever it was, whatever way you did it, and it went out and it had a ripple effect into that family, which meant it had a ripple effect into the local community, which means it had a ripple effect into the national community. And like Siobhan said, we can't measure that effect. We can't measure that light, but we do know that as educators, we do ignite that light in others, and we do, but we just have to be so careful now that we're not just filling it all up and handing it over, that we are actually not just, we're giving of ourselves because that's the nature of our role, but that we are making sure there's enough in the cup or enough in the well of energy, that we are not straining and being exhausted and burnt out. And that's where the self-care surfboard comes in, really, and that's where our light comes in. So those words were so beautiful and really reiterating everything that we have been saying today. So I hope that you're maybe feeling a little bit lighter and a little bit more relaxed as the morning is going on. So now we've come to the time where we're coming to our keynote speaker. And this lady is a very special lady in all our hearts. She's a lecturer, well-known author and researcher, an organizational consultant, a former primary school teacher, teaching leadership and management on the MEd course in Trinity College, teaching social and emotional intelligence in Marino Institute of Education, and her well-known publication, Positive Behaviours, Emotions and Relationships, The Heart of Leadership in a School, is, I'm sure, a Bible to many school leaders and many educators. And her keynote today is called Proactively Caring for Yourself as an Educator. And I know that you're going to really get something from this. Personally, I think that she's a lady who speaks from her heart and speaks from her passion, which I absolutely love. She's an inspiration, and she is indeed a light to all of us who are passionate about education. So I'd like to warmly welcome Jacinta Kitt.
Can I start? Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for that lovely introduction, and I hope those comments are going to be warranted and that people are going to find something helpful in what I'm going to say. It's interesting that I am going to talk about proactive caring for yourself. And if you look today, Saturday, the Irish Times, if you look at the Irish Times any Saturday, they always have a list of the words or the themes that have appeared most prominently over the preceding week. And you will see for sure, if you look at those since the beginning of the lockdown, the COVID-related lockdown, you will see variations on the word care very, very regularly. So you'll see carers, caring, care itself, careful. And of course, ourselves, we sign off on a lot of our emails, our text messages, our WhatsApp messages, and we receive lots of those messages which include the words take care. And I find myself writing it to all my family, take care, take care. It was funny that one of my sons said to me, Mom, you're always saying take care, but you never tell us how to do it. And I thought, gosh, that's true. Because of course, taking care is a multi-dimensional, multifactorial concept. So I'm going to try to put individual elements of caring for yourself into the presentation this morning. And of course, I'm going to reiterate exactly what Anne-Marie has said, that what I'm going to be talking about is really looking inward, looking at yourself and looking at what you can do in very practical terms. There'll be a psychological dimension to it, of course, but I'll try to put it in very practical terms. Now, I am going to overwhelm you with slides. You needn't look at them at all. You can listen to my voice if you like. You can close your eyes if you like. You needn't look at them at all, but I put them up here because there are so many dimensions, and I want to make them available to you after the presentation so that you can recap on some of the things that I said. So I'm going to put up the slides now, if that's okay. And I'm going to do a screen share on them. So I'm going to put them down first and screen share. No. Won't take a minute. There you go. And share. And if you can see those, I'm just going to do the slideshow here and start from the beginning. Once I have this done, I won't be stopping again. I'll be going like now. So is that clear for everybody? So caring for yourself in challenging times is the title of the talk. And just to say to you that when we look at it in terms of proactivity, I want to show you the dimensions that I'm going to cover today. And you might be quite surprised at the word in bracket after the first one, which is about accurate self-assessment of what we can and cannot do. That is one of the most important things for those of us facing back into education, facing back into schools now. It is having an accurate assessment of what you can and cannot do. And to be honest with you, even though the word humility means a lot of things to a lot of people, that is actually what humility is. It's a halfway point between arrogance, conceitedness, I can do everything, I'm supernatural, that end of things, and the other end of things, how in the name of God am I going to cope? I'm useless, I'm worthless. Humility is an accurate assessment of what you can and cannot do. I even find when I say that, I feel calmer because there's a sense of I cannot do everything. The second one is identifying and using our psychological resources. Now you're going to be, all of you, going back into schools in the next few days, preparing for it and getting into it and operating within schools within the restrictions over the next period. And you're going to be using your human resources. They are your experience, your qualifications, your training, your skills, all of those. You're going to be using your social resources. So you're going to have to be managing your relationships with others, encouraging, supporting, all of those things. But one of the most important in terms of caring for yourself is using your psychological resources. Those in the know call it psych cap. I didn't know that when I read it first, and I thought to myself, psych cap, I've never heard of that. But actually, it is a very broad area of research, and not just for difficult times, but for every aspect of our life, particularly our relationships, our psychological capital, which is really our psychological resources, are very important. It's about communicating our needs assertively, to be able to communicate with others during these times in an assertive way. When we're under pressure, there is a tendency for us perhaps to stray into aggression, or there's a tendency for us, if we feel despairing, to stray into passivity and helplessness. So we're going to focus on communicating our needs assertively. We're going to obviously look at managing our emotions because emotions play such a huge role in the caring for ourselves. So we'll be looking in particular at our emotional and social intelligence. And of course, nothing will be done unless we reflect, introspect, have a look at ourselves. May I introduce you to yourself? How am I doing? Asking others how you're doing. So that seems like a lot of work. So I'm going to go as quickly as I can possibly through it. But as I say, don't worry too much about the slides at the moment if you don't feel like them, because I know slide overload is definitely a disease and probably a virus as well. So when we look at accurate assessment, humility, I'm calling it. It's interesting, as I love the word now. I've come to love the word because we'd often think about it, particularly in religious connotations of, you know, running yourself down, flailing yourself, you know, putting yourself down. But I remember my first introduction to the whole area of research around humility was when I read a marvelous book. I think it has a simple title like Leaders. And it focused on what the author called the 4 most successful American presidents as leaders. And he called them the Rushmorean presidents, not by virtue of the fact that their heads were carved into Mount Rushmore, but by virtue of the fact that they had presided over peace and prosperity during their time as presidents. And what he said in that book was that the I suppose the characteristic that the four of them shared was that they had a modicum of humility. And it was my first introduction to getting to like the notion of humility. And he described it in a lot of ways in that book, but one of the things he said is having the ability to know that you can't do everything yourself. You're only as good as the people you have around you. You're only as good as your relationships, as you're sharing, as you're projecting. So I thought it a wonderful, and I've read a lot about it since. So please try to think of humility in terms of the following options. And maybe while we're going through them, you might be thinking to yourself, are these things that I possess, or are these things that I need to work on? So the elements of accurate self-assessment is, number one, acknowledging your limitations. For every relationship that we're in, be it a work related or whatever, we really have to always be able to see our strengths and our areas in need of improvement. So acknowledging our limitations, having an open mind, having being open to different perspectives. We're going to have to do that now. Things are not going to be the same. So we're going to have to be open-minded to manage things and to cope with things as the problems, which inevitably are going to come, arise. So having an open mind and being willing to learn new ways of doing it. I could not praise teachers, SNAs and others who work in schools enough for the way they embraced technology, probably some of them for the first time at the start of the COVID. How so quickly they were Zooming and webinaring and using terminology that they had never used before. And that was exactly what we're talking about, being open-minded and willing to learn, being able to admit to not knowing something. Very important for leaders now and principals. And you notice that increasingly, you notice, well, I do anyway, when people are being interviewed on the radio, there's always an element of trying to catch you out. And I sometimes think to myself, if the person could say, well, actually, I don't know that. I haven't quite figured that out yet, that it might actually diffuse that awful sense of somebody trying to catch you out. So admitting to not knowing something, very liberating to be able to do that. Taking responsibility for your mistakes. I got that wrong, and being able to apologize. I'm sorry about that. For some people, an apology sticks in their craw. They couldn't do it. But it is again it lets go of so much tension if you apologize. And apologies, of course, take away 75% of the hurt. Not the entire hurt, but 75% is not a bad starting point. I ask for help from others who have the skills. So don't pretend you know everything. This is an element of humility. I ask others, I say, look, you're really good at that. Could you help me with that? You're really good at that. Could you take on that responsibility? Really important. Seek advice. I seek it and I accept feedback. I welcome feedback. I ask, how am I doing? Really important. And I'm able to say no in an appropriate manner. Now, we'll be covering a lot of those elements as we go through the presentation today. But we're going to now look at the four components of PsychCap, psychological capital or psychological resources. And they're ones that we come across so often, and they're ones that we talk about so often, but perhaps not together and perhaps not in this context. So the first one is hope. Hope is so important, and it's not a flippant hope. It's not I hope everything will be all right. Oh, I hope and I pray. No, it's a pragmatic, practical hope that we're going to talk about. Optimism, of course. Well, Oscar Wilde's definition always appealed to me, albeit a bit irreverent like he was generally, but I still loved him in his writings. He said, "Twixt optimist and pessimist, the difference is droll. The optimist sees the donut and the pessimist sees the whole." And of course, we know for sure that both optimism and pessimism are contagious. So we're going to look a bit at optimism. Self-efficacy, we're familiar with that in terms of our professionalism and all of that, but really what it genuinely means is having real, authentic confidence in yourself. which is really echoing what Anne-Marie said earlier. And finally, the tried and tested, which I'm going to challenge a little bit, resilience. So we'll go start with the hope. And hope, having hope, especially in these times, is absolutely essential, not for our own happiness and for our own success, but also for our own well-being and for our ability to keep going. And the opposite of it is fatalism. Oh, we'll never be able to get over this. Oh, we'll never be able to do that. Hopelessness. Doesn't matter what we do, it's still going to be desperate, and into despair. So we see, if we don't want to go there, we really have to concentrate on hope. And how do we do it? What are the practical and pragmatic ways for instilling hope into ourselves, number one, and into those around us, and particularly into the children, into our students? So setting or encouraging and developing hope is about setting, pursuing, and attaining goals. That's a very practical way. Now, they can be small goals, very small goals for ourselves, that, I'm going to let things go if they're upsetting me. I'm going to stop and breathe, as Anne-Marie showed us how to do there. It can be small ones, it can be medium-sized goals, it can be very large goals. So we set them for ourselves, but we have to have the will to keep going. So we develop the will and we find the ways to achieve them. So we plan it out. How am I going to achieve these goals? And one of the ways that we do it is we parcel big goals, because we're going to have very big goals. The big goal of all is going to be that we keep the schools open. Now, to a certain extent, it's going to be outside our control, but where it is within our control, we place the goals into manageable, smaller sizes. Now, optimism, what is optimism actually? Of course, it's about seeing the donut, but it is positive and realistic expectations about the future. So it's not unrealistic. It's not pie in the sky. Everything will be grand. It'll be grand. It'll be grand. No, it is about positive and realistic. And it's about, even when things go wrong, or even when things aren't going exactly as planned, that we're able to say to ourselves, what's good about things? What's good? I always remember the example I use, and it's completely irrelevant now, and we wish it was relevant. It was where the principal in a school always objected to the teacher's choice of restaurant for the Christmas do, or the end of year do, and he always insisted that they go to the local, steak and chips place. That's lovely, it's so grand, and they would suggest other things, and he would always say, no, hate that, don't want to go there. And somebody said to him once, could you maybe ask what's good about it? And just by changing the focus, he said, well, what's good about it? And he went round everybody. And one person said it was an Italian restaurant. They said, well, it's not just pasta and pizza. Well, it's very reasonable. Well, the wine is good. The atmosphere is good. So it's about, when you are entrenched in your views that things are desperate and things are that, and you're in that pessimistic state, always ask what's good about it and try to see the best in others. These are times, and I notice it from social media, the awful language that people are using in terms of criticizing others. They're stressed, they're overwhelmed, they're anxious, and it's coming out in the words that they use. It's coming out in the desperation in their voices and in the knocking and the complaining about others. So we always have to try and see the best in others, even when people disappoint us. And they disappoint us all the time. Our leaders, our politicians, they disappoint us. But we have to perhaps maybe put things into perspective of how difficult it is for everybody in these times. Give new ideas the benefit of the doubt. Somebody on the staff comes up with a new idea. Don't dismiss it and say, oh, we've enough to be doing. We've enough to be doing. We tried that before, it didn't work then. Give them the benefit of the doubt. And most importantly of all, in terms of optimism, try to surround yourself with positive people. And if you are with negative people, we're going to look at dealing with negativity actually in a moment, but if you are, make sure that you you meet somebody positive for a walk, or you make a call to somebody, or you gravitate to somebody who will share your positivity and lift you when you are feeling a bit down. So the self-efficacy, as I said, is confidence. And Anne-Marie alluded to looking to yourself, valuing yourself, developing that. And those are, that is what it is. But how you identify it in people. So it's about looking at yourself to see how you rate, and I don't mean rate and scores, but how you are in the context of what we're saying here. So people who are genuinely confident, they're never threatened by the confidence and the competence of others. They're always willing to acknowledge that. So if you find that you're inclined to knock somebody who's confident and competent, you have to look to yourself, to value yourself, and to develop your own self-confidence, and to say, what am I good at? But it's also good in terms of confidence to be able to admit that you don't know or you don't understand something. And that can be very hard for people who are faking it, who are pretending. And I have to admit myself to a mistake that I made in this regard. It must be 20 years ago now, but it stood me in good stead as a lesson. I remember myself and my colleague went for an interview to take on a very big piece of work in an organisation where we were going to evaluate their assessment process of how procedures that they had introduced were being, successful or not so successful. So it was a very big project, actually. And we were interviewed, the two of us, two women, by 5 men from the executive or the senior executive of the organisation. And they asked us quite a lot of questions. And then this one particular guy looked me straight in the eye and he asked me about some syndrome or other. He said, will you be using this syndrome in your work if you get this, if you have to take on this project? And I didn't have a bull's clue what he was talking about. And instead of saying, I haven't a bull's clue of what you're talking about, but in a more articulate way, I tried to bluff. I said, well, we're not sure yet. That's something we'll have to think about, later or whatever. And he turned to my colleague and he said to my colleague, do you think you might be using the, whatever it was, syndrome? And she answered, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that. I wonder, would you mind elaborating on it? And I remember that feeling of shame and embarrassment, but also I remembered in terms of competence for the future, how it sapped my confidence and how much more confident I would have been if I'd have been able to admit to not knowing something and not understanding something. And that's going to be very, very very important in the coming times when we are going to be confronted with things that we don't know how to cope with them and that we don't understand them. And of course, developing your own self-efficacy and your self-confidence is contingent on working in a supportive environment. And that's my area, that's my main area. I'm not going to be talking about the positive environment the way I always talked about it at the moment, because there are so many new challenges. But it is really important, particularly if you're in a leadership role in school, that you create a supportive environment so that the confidence of the staff will be developed and improved. And here we have the resilience. Resilience. If I had a penny for where I see it popping up and where, the amount of times I'm asked I do work on resilience. And if you look at the definition of resilience that you find in a lot of the very well-known psychologists' research, Seligman and Maston, brilliant, and I'm very supportive and a big fan of their work. But both of them describe resilience in terms of bouncing back from adversity. And I will tell you, I have a serious problem with that. Because I think when adversity hits or something goes wrong, it is exceedingly difficult to bounce back. So somebody delivers a Scud missile across the staff room floor that hits you, goes through your emotion-proof vest, hits you right in there, and you say, oh, I feel very hurt, I feel very upset, but I'm going to bounce right back. Very difficult. I think it is much more resilience about clawing back crawling back maybe, but getting back. So that's how I look at it. And one of the ways, and I read this in a book that I got online from Australia called Resilience, if I remember correctly. I read it online. I couldn't get the hard copy of it, and nearly killed me with my eyes and that, but it was worth it for this one particular bit, if for nothing else, where she talked about putting things, ascertaining the importance of the bigger picture, is my own language, but she talked about it in terms of putting things on the crisis scale. She says death, divorce, and natural disaster, 10. Now we do have a bit of a natural disaster at the moment, so I'm not saying that things aren't going to go to 10, but she said when something happens, put it on the crisis scale. And of course there can be 10s, but there'll be other things that won't be. So it enables us to cope if we put them on the crisis scale. Engagement with mutually empathic and responsive relationships. That is one of the big things for our resilience. If you feel bad, if you feel low, if you feel you can't cope, being in an empathic, responsive relationship is a great source of resilience. Children, they talk a lot about how to build children's resilience. The best way of all to build children's resilience is to provide them with protective factors and processes. That is one, the environment that they're in, the environment that you create in the school, which is protective. That is the thing that's going to build their resources, because their resource of resilience, because so many of them are going to be coming in worried, and the children take on, they take on the mood of those around them. So it's a very important part of our role. So the communication is next, and we're flying through here, going through like grease lightning. And assertive communication is the one, excuse me for coughing, assertive communication is the one that we want to be at. And that is about, saying what you feel, standing up for your rights, but doing it in such a way, being careful about the words and the tone that you use, that you do not violate another person's rights. And the more stressed we are, the more tendency we have to go towards aggressiveness or aggression. So we really have to develop our assertiveness, and it's a skill that can be developed. We're not going to do it today, but I'm going to give you an outline of what it entails. And it's also about expressing your needs and your wants and your opinions and your feelings and your beliefs. It's about saying all of those things, but just expressing them in direct, honest, and appropriate ways that do not impact negatively on relationships. So no Scud missile thrown in there. The little barb or the little comment that you can make that means that the person can't heed your needs, your wants, your opinions, your beliefs, because they're marred by the little barb or the little Scud missile that you have in there. So assertiveness is a wonderful gift to have in terms of caring for yourself, because what do we want from communication? We want our needs, our wants, our opinions, our feelings, and our beliefs to be heard and to be responded to. So now, just to say, aggressive communication, or aggression is standing up for your own rights. Oh yes, the aggressive people, oh yeah, no doubt about that, they lay down the law, but they're doing it without considering the impact that it is having on others. So it's a very selfish way of communicating. One of the most prevalent manifestations of aggression is stating your opinion as a fact. That'll never work. This is ridiculous. That's horrible. That's stating your opinion as a fact. We don't do that in our house anymore. I remember when the children were teenagers, they were always, oh, that's awful, Mom. Oh, that's awful. Or whatever they, going on about. And I used to always say to them, in your opinion. And recently, one of my two musician sons, you can imagine the state of the arts at the moment, how they're feeling, but one of them played me a piece of music, and I said, oh, that's awful. In your opinion, Mum. And it's really important. I recognize that by expressing it as a fact, you're saying this is the way it is. So you're not allowing another person to have a different opinion. So aggressive communication is one of the worst. Passive communication nearly as bad. Failing is to stand up for yourself, or doing so in an apologetic way or in a way that others can easily ignore you. You see, assertiveness is being able to say it, get it out, but saying it appropriately. So the aim with our communication is to move our assertiveness into our passivity and aggression, to make our assertiveness the prevailing communication and behavior style that we use. So now I'm probably going into a little bit of detail here on assertiveness for a presentation that has an awful lot of dimensions, but I think it's worth it. And I say these are the various dimensions of assertiveness. Now you could I have spent an entire day working with these 6 dimensions. So I am going to give a very snapshot view of what they are, but it just goes to show you the options that you have if you want to improve your assertiveness. And basic assertiveness is simply about being able to ask for your rights without padding it. So it's if you go into a store and you want to change a size 14 for a size 12, that you can say it without telling your life story. Excuse me, I bought this last week. I really love it, love the colour and everything, but it's a bit big for me. Mum's not well, running up and down to the hospital every day. I wonder, would you mind changing? When you get a minute, no rush or whatever. So you're telling your life story, you don't need to do it. You need to say, excuse me, I bought this size 14. I'd like to change it for a size 12. Thank you very much. So politeness is in there. Interestingly, there was a survey done on those who work in stores. I don't know what sort of stores they were, but I think they were the kind of haberdashery clothes stores. And the interesting thing that they said in terms of people telling their life story, that they wish they wouldn't. They wish they would just ask. So basic communication is to be able, if you order the steak and you ask for it well done and you stick your fork in it and a geyser of blood comes up, that you don't have to say, sorry to bother you, little bit of, no, take it away, bring it back. Actually, I'll rinse the kitchen myself and do it. That you're able to say, I asked for the steak well done, this is not, I wonder would you take it back and change it for a well done one, thank you. So it's, but it's amazing how many people can't do that. And of course, it's amazing how many people who are aggressive snap their fingers. Does that look well done to you? So it is about just stating it in a polite way. Empathic is about getting your message across, but taking account of the other person where they're at. And I think it's very important for children. We use a lot with children. You know, if the child comes in from school at the end of the day, throws the bag, slings the bag on the floor, throws the coat over the chair, and you immediately say, pick up that, been working all day, hang up your coat. And it's not taking account of where the child is. Whereas if you say, how you love, and you say, look, would you ever pick up your coat and hat and sit down and we'll have a cup of tea. So it's about, as it was, sandwiching it. I'm a great believer in the sandwiching. And, you know, say the principal in the school is going down to a teacher and they really want to see them about something and it's urgent. You know, instead of saying, I want to see you now down in the office. And that's what she does want. But she said, look, I can see you're very busy at the moment. However, I really need to have a word with you. Thank you. So it's the sandwich method. It's taken on board where the other person is coming from. Responsive assertiveness is where when a person is expressing negativity in an aggressive way, that'll never work. Try that 20 years ago, it didn't work then, won't work now. So where your assertiveness comes in is you don't let that negativity knock the idea and knock you. You respond and you say something like, well, what are your particular reservations about it? And what would you prefer to do? Now, not all of them, you know, to make a choice of them. You know, how do you think by doing this it's going to adversely affect us? So you get the person to try to elaborate rather than just stating their opinion as a fact. And it's a very powerful means. Discrepancy is where you will need to remind a person again, you know, two teachers and staff not talking, say, for example, and the principal says, well, you know, I have spoken to you already about the impact of this situation on the atmosphere in the school, and I have asked you to try to resolve it. I'm still very keen for that to be done. So you're letting them know that you have said it already. I'm still very keen for it to be done. You don't go any further than that. Negative feelings is the really important one. It is responding to someone who says something to you that is negative and affects you. And it has a formula. And the formula for the assertive I message, a lot of you will be familiar with it already, but it's worth reminding ourselves of it now, because these things are going to hit us. We are going to have to rely on these resources much more in these times. So when you, a behavior, so you don't say when you made a show of me in front of everybody, or you don't say when you insulted me in front of everybody. You give the exact, excuse me, behavior. When you, let's say, interrupted me in mid-sentence at the staff meeting, I feel, and it's very important to start talking about it, I feel frustrated, I feel disappointed, I feel angry, whatever their feeling is. So I'd like you to, and it's not, I'd like you to shut up, or I'd like you to behave better, or I'd like you to mind your manners. No, it's a behavior. So I'd like you to allow me to finish my point. So that there's a hook, but the hook is not so that I don't have to fall out with you and not talk to you for 5 months. It's so that mutually beneficial hook, so that we'll all our views will be heard at the meeting. And it's a wonderful way to do it, even in your intimate relationships. We really have to learn to get our message across in a way that it will be held, that it will be heard. And going back there for the last one, which is consequence. Consequence is last resort. And say, going back to the dueling teachers, we say, we've talked about this conflict and the damage it's having. I have reminded you of the impact and what I expect from you. It has not been done. If it continues, I shall have no option but to bring in external advice, but I prefer not to. So it's a last resort. You're telling them that it's serious, but you're giving still a little out. And so can you imagine how good that is if it can be utilized in our everyday conversation? And the two intelligences that we need, of course, sorry for coughing, that's just because I had my coffee beforehand and I know I shouldn't have. And I always cough after the coffee. The two intelligences that we need more than anything are emotional and social intelligence. And, you know, some people call them the newfangled intelligences or the highfalutin intelligences. They're not. They're the essential intelligences, but they're also, although there are complexities within them, they're quite simple. And the simplicity of them is that the emotional intelligence can be described as having a positive disposition overall or generally. And would you believe that's the definition of psychological capital as well? Positive disposition overall. So it means up-regulating your positive emotions, holding on to them, up-regulating them, and down-regulating your negative ones. Simple as that. Mind you, you could spend a week looking at emotional intelligence. And social intelligence, which I love, is the ability to get on well with others. You know, there are some people who can't even get on with themselves. They lack social intelligence. They don't know, they never say the right thing. They put their foot in it. So they're really important intelligences for these trying times. And we always have to remember, emotions hit everyone. I heard on the radio at one stage not that long ago where somebody said something in relation to emotions. It was a sports person, a man, and he said, I don't do emotions. Well, that was one of the times when I felt like losing control of my emotions and throwing the slipper at the radio and saying, you bloody well do, because everybody does. Emotions hit you. There is no emotion-proof vest. People talk about the emotion-proof vest. There's none. They pierce through to everybody. There's nothing you can do to stop them. But when they hit you, they only last for a very short time. They are chemical reactions to a stimulus, and they only last for a very long time. But you're the one that decides whether through your thinking that you prolong them or through your thinking that you let them go. So emotional intelligence is holding on to the positive ones and letting go of the negative ones. We're just going to look at it in terms of stress, the coping strategies in terms of stress. This is from the stress literature as opposed to the emotional and social intelligence literature. It comes from the stress literature. So we are going to experience stressors. You cannot stop no more than emotions, can't stop stressors. Stressors hit us, and they're going to hit us, and they're going to hit us hard over the next while. And the stressor provokes an emotion. And the emotion only lasts for 6 seconds. But the thinking determines whether you feed into that emotion, and it's the feeding in process that creates the stress. So the stress is avoidable at the point of intervention, which is the thinking, not the stressor, not the emotion, but the thinking about it. And I think that's very powerful in terms of caring for yourself and preventing stress. And the faulty thinking, because it's faulty thinking that promotes the negative emotions leading to the stress. And the faulty thinking, the common factor with your interpretation of the event. So you think, oh my God, this is the worst thing that ever happened. Oh my God, this is never going to be resolved. And then you think maybe the motivation, oh, I know why that one said that one. She said that. She just said that to knock me. She just said that to make my life miserable. And the possible outcome, no matter what I do, I'm not going to be able to resolve this. They are the faulty thinking. Now, it's not to say that in these challenging times your interpretation might not be right. Of course it might, but it's very often totally wrong. So it's not about changing all negative interpretation. You have to be realistic, but it's about recognizing that there are a range of interpretations for you to consider to inform your response and to determine your stress levels. So I think that's very powerful, and just to think about it. I love the social intelligence literature. There's amazing stuff in there. My own and a colleague that I work with devised this long-winded definition where we say social intelligence is about having the ability to interact with others in a warm, accepting way, creating a sense of connectedness and facilitating positive and productive personal and professional relationships. Now, obviously, if we were working on social intelligence with you in more detail, we'd be going through all of that in detail. But for those who still regard emotional and social intelligence as the newfangled intelligences, I just love Thorndike's definition of social intelligence coming from 1920. He said it is the ability to act wisely in human relations. Wouldn't you give your eye teeth to be able to act wisely in human relations, to say the right thing, to respond in the right way? 1920, he wrote that, and I think it's just amazing. But again, if we were looking at it in more detail, we'd be looking at what does that mean? But I think it's a very, very good mantra to have for developing our social intelligence. So in our profession, we have a wonderful array of different skills in there. We have people everyone using leadership skills. We have SNA, people providing an amazing service. We have teachers, we have principals, we have a whole array with administrative staff, all of that with caretaking staff. But in the whole education sphere, we talk a lot, and I would talk a lot when I'm dealing with, I teach still on the MEd course in Trinity, talk a lot about getting the participants on the course and the students on the course, undergrads and postgrads, obviously postgrads for the MEd and undergrads in Marino. And we always get them to think about the importance of reflective practice. There are two kind of fairly well-known sayings that kind of describe the reflective practice. And one is, if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always want. And the other one is, the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. So we're getting the idea of what reflective practice is. Socrates put it very well in 450 BC when he said, an unexamined life isn't worth living. Not to be outdone by Socrates, I wrote my own one night in bed. And I say that it is much more pragmatic. It's not going to threaten Socrates' one, I hasten to add, but it's 2 steps of doing. So you're not going to get up in the morning and say, right, we'll change everything. No, you're going to keep going the way you always did. But 2 steps of doing and 1 step of stopping and asking, how am I doing? Asking yourself, number 1, and asking others. So that's my way of thinking, and that's what we should always be doing. And that's what we'll be doing more and more in these uncertain times, doing, going at it, and then stopping and saying, how's this going? How am I doing? Could I be doing something differently? That will really, really help us in this. And the reflective practice, what it is essential for is, it's examining how we do things, because we're habits, we're creatures of habits. We do the things that we always did. So, you know, this is really examining how we do it, examining why do we do it that way? Why? And you have to do that because it's a process, reflective practice. It's learning better and different ways of doing things, watching others, asking others, and then it's about changing the way we do things. So it's a process again, rather than just a practice. And it's about becoming self-aware. I always say, getting to know yourself. May I introduce you to yourself? And getting to know yourself is one of the most important things. You're never going to be able to cope unless you can look inward, introspect, examine yourself, observe yourself, see how you handle things, reflect on your moods and the impact on others. Moods are going to be up and down over the next period. There's no doubt about that. There's nothing we can do about the moods, but it is what we do with those moods when they hit. Are we going to transfer them onto others so that we spread them, so that they become contagious? Or are we going to manage them? Reflect on your feelings, your attitudes, and your reactions to others, and see how best you can manage them. Interact with diverse individuals to seek different perspectives. That's why it's so important. The Education Centre is so important. Lovely to see the 2 directors on here today. It's not that long ago since I was down in the wonderful, welcoming Waterford Education Centre, and it's not that long ago since I was with Siobhan in Kildare either. And since the COVID, I've been doing a lot of work with the education centres online on building psychological capital and developing emotional intelligence and that. So Donegal, if they're looking in today, Jackie, lovely, and Susan in Blackrock, and Terry down in Kerry, and Ray in Clare, I work with them and I have the height of admiration for the work they do. In terms of that point there, is reminding me of it. Interact with different individuals with different perspectives. Seek feedback from others. How am I doing? And introspect. What am I really like? Now, they would require an awful lot more detail. So, personal effectiveness, nearly finished. Personal effectiveness and well-being, 3 dimensions to it. Increasing your self-awareness, as we have talked about. Building and maintaining positive relationships, really important, developing our relation. And of course, in relationships, and Anne-Marie alluded to it herself, that has to come from yourself. If you want to change the quality of your relationship with somebody, you have to change yourself. The only way you can change the behavior of anybody else is by changing your own and not taking yourself too seriously. Great believer in that. Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't talk down to somebody. Diffuse. I love the word diffuse rather than escalate. There are going to be so many opportunities for escalating things up into international incidents. The skill for your well-being, for your caring, is diffuse. Don't interpret. Consider a range of options and ask. If you think somebody has insulted you, you said, look, I heard that and I felt disappointed by that. What did you mean? Ask. Address behaviours without personal comment. We always talked about the kids in terms, separate the behaviour from the child, the essence. Say things that make others feel better rather than worse. We'll all have people in our lives when we put down the phone, we feel the worst for the encounter. Social intelligence, one of the dimensions of it is speaking to others that you make them feel the better for the encounter. So think about the people who make you feel the worst for the encounter and be determined that you're not going to pass that on. And suspend outrage and effrontery. Outrage and effrontery. Now you look at the word effrontery there with the exclamation mark. I tried to put in my book, there are some people who are addicted to effrontery. And my lovely editor, Derek West, said to me, Jacinta, there's enough language in the English dictionary without you inventing your own. So leave it out. And I did. And I'm sorry, because I think there's no better word than effrontery. The people who are addicted to being affronted, who are addicted to being outed. What did you just, what, how do, oh my God. And sometimes they can hold on to outrage and effrontery forever, for long, for weeks, for months, go into a huff, not talk to the other person. So one of the most important things in terms of not taking yourself too seriously is suspend outrage and effrontery. And if something is bothering you, do something about it or let it go. Thank you. The slides will be available to you if you wish to have them. And I hope that I didn't go too fast and incorporate too much, and that you found something within the presentation helpful. And I wish you all the very, very, very best of luck over the coming weeks and months. Thank you.
Well, Jacinta, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. The messages have been flooding in just at how wonderful it was and how inspiring it was. And I think because it's so practical and because it allows us to relate, everything you were saying just relates not just to our school life, our professional life, but actually to our personal relationships. And I love that part of just being able to say, that I don't know it. I don't know what the answer is to that. And I think that's vulnerability, and that's wonderful. Absolutely. And it's our way in. It's our way in to connect with one another. It's our way back to each other, as Brené Brown would say, about vulnerability and about really being able to say, I don't know the answers to that, whether it's to the children, to the students, or to each other on staff, or whether you're making that big presentation amongst your peers.
Yes.
I loved that part of it. Well, I loved every part of it, and as I said, all the messages are flooding in, and as Jacinta said, that presentation will be made available to you, and we want to thank Jacinta for being part of Ignite Your Light today, and it's been absolutely wonderful. If we were at our face-to-face conference, we'd have a big round of applause now for you, Jacinta. So thank you so much for that and for being with us today. It's very, very special to have you. So what we're going to do now is Shane in IMS, the guys in IMS have been amazing, Integrated Media Solutions. They are working behind the scenes. You can't see any of that, but they've just been fantastic. Everything running to a T this morning, thanks to them. But Shane is going to put up 3 links into the chat bar now. So you should be able to see in a couple of moments the 3 links there. You'll see room 1 with Paula Byrne, Ignite Your Light Chair Yoga for Support. I can just see it coming up there. And then room 2 will be with Margaret Foley, Bring New Light to Your Nutrition. And then the 3rd one is going to be Grace Tempany for the Ignite Your Yin Stillness Practice for Emotional Wellbeing. So just whenever you're ready, you can pop into that, just click on the link, pop into your workshop, sit back and relax. I have actually seen all of those presentations in the workshops, and they are gorgeous. So I know that you're going to enjoy them. At about 11:45, please do pop back to me, because I'm going, like I said earlier, I'm going to have a presentation rolling that I think you might take some maybe thoughts from. And I think that's important to continue on from where we began at 9:15 and just continue to fill ourselves up with that. So to come back for the presentation, and then I'll be giving you the 3 links, or Shane rather will be giving you the 3 links on the chat bar for the next 3 workshops. And you can choose one, and it'll be about maybe going on till about maybe 11:15 or so. Or sorry, 11:45. So we're 11:45 now, so going to 11:45, pop back here to me. So this is like our main room, the main webinar room. So I'm going to pop off now. If you want to just go into your link and enjoy your workshop, everybody. Sit back, relax, and just enjoy. All right, I'll see you soon. Hi everyone. I hope that, I know we have maybe where we've people kind of filing back in now from the workshops. I know that Paula and Margaret and Grace are just finishing up some in Q&A. So I hope that you feel more rested, more centered, and just maybe just more connected into yourself, which is so important. So just having that building of energy just to restore and renew and so on. So I know that, look, technology is what it is, but I hope that you managed to get in and out. People are messaging saying that their laptop died or that they lost a link, the internet went down. I can't wait for the day when we'll all be able to meet for Ignite Your Light in different circumstances, face to face. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to take like a comfort break, like a tea or coffee break. So go put the kettle on and just maybe take a breath, sit on the couch if possible, and just maybe get a little snack and pop back to me here in the main room. Okay, so myself and Shane are here to help. Shane mainly with the technical, but just if there is any issues with any links or anything, just let us know, okay? If you have any trouble getting it, just put in the chat bar or raise the hand. So we're just going to take a tea and coffee break now, and on screen will be a presentation, just some thoughts I had over the last few months about all of us and how important our role is. And, you know, on the back of everything that everyone in the workshops, I'm sure, have said today in terms of, you know, the movement and the nutrition and the emotional well-being, the stillness practice, and what Jacinta has spoken about, it's so important for us to value ourselves in that way. So the presentation, I hope, encapsulates some of that for you now. Have your cuppa, stay with us, and then Shane is going to pop the 3 links for the next workshops into the chat bar at about just before 12. So we'll have Ignite Your, Paula again with Ignite Your Light, breathing space meditation and gratitude practice. We have Margaret again, but this time she'll be bringing you Ignite Your Physical Wellbeing. And then we've Jack Durkin with Ignite Your Light Wellbeing for Men. which is so important for all of our men in education as well. So if you want to go put the kettle on, like I said, go have a cup of tea or coffee, and we will be presenting this to you now, and then you can pop back and get your link to your next workshop. All right, so go gently, go lightly with that, and enjoy the cuppa, and I will see you soon. Hi everyone. So it's now 12 noon. I know that some of you have traveled back into the webinar, so I hope that you got a cup of tea or coffee during the break. And I also hope that you got to look at our presentation, which of course I'll be sharing again on social media soon. So I'm just going to, Shane is going to pop up the 3 links now for the 3 new workshops for session 2. So just to remind you what they are, we have Paula Byrne again, but this time Paula is doing Ignite Your Light breathing space meditation. She'll be doing gratitude practice. It's so relaxing. Or you can go to Margaret Foley, who's going to do Ignite Your Physical Wellbeing, which I've seen, it's fantastic. And then, or you can go to Ignite Your Wellbeing for Men with Jack Durkin. So whichever link that you feel you want to go into now, by all means, bring your cuppa. If you're going to Paula's meditation, be sure to bring a nice blanket, a cushion. She might ask you to have pen and paper at the ready as well, just to jot down some thoughts. You don't have to read anything out, but just to jot down some thoughts. And if you're going to Margaret's, maybe just to get nice and comfy. And the same with Jack. So if you want to grab your link now, as always, myself and Shane will be in the webinar here. We're staying here until well, we'll be here till 1:30, but until 1 o'clock. When you're finished in your workshop, please remember to come back to me, because I'm going to have a little chat with you for about 15-20 minutes just about igniting our light, and actually to ignite a candle with you, to do a little meditative session with you in lighting our candle and then sending you off with some uplifting music, and you don't want to miss that. So do remember to come back. I know you'll probably be half asleep at that stage, you'll be so relaxed, which is brilliant, but do remember to come back in here to me at that point at about maybe 10 to 1 or so. All right, or whenever you're finished in the workshop. And thank you so much for all the wonderful feedback so far. I'm so delighted that you are enjoying this support session so much. So any questions you have, please pop them in the chat for myself or Shane if you're getting stuck technology wise. Okay, and I will see you about maybe 10 to 1. All right, and enjoy. Hi everyone, so you're very welcome back. I know that some people are filing in back into our webinar now, and I hope you have thoroughly enjoyed your workshops. So we're just going to wait a couple of moments now, just while people are filing back in. So get yourself rested. I hope you are rested, but get yourself a nice cozy spot again. And we're going to begin in a few moments when everyone comes back into the webinar. So I see we're filling up. And I hope that maybe you'd like to pop something in the chat if you enjoyed a particular workshop. I'm sure that I've heard some brilliant feedback already from many attendees in terms of the workshops this morning. So I hope that you have enjoyed it. I hope you feel more rested. I hope you feel restored. And I hope you feel that recovery coming in now. While you get yourself settled. And we're going to have it about 1 o'clock. We're going to come back together. I hope it's great to see so many people coming back in, that you didn't get lost along the way. I know with the online, you know, sometimes we have to go and we have to do some other activities and tasks, but it's wonderful to see people coming back into the webinar to light our candle. So if you have your candle at the ready as well, we're going to do that little meditative candle lighting practice as well. So Anne says, so heavenly, and loads of gorgeous emojis there that we can see. Presentation so fab. So delighted, Anne. Grania, thank you, much needed. So thank you so much, Grania and Anne. Darren, absolutely brilliant morning so far. Great workshops in yoga and meditation. So that's wonderful. So I'm really delighted to hear that you are feeling like that you felt you know, that filling up and igniting of your light today. It's absolutely so crucial. to all of you moving back into school. Gillian says, hi, thank you so much for today. It's been amazing. Really neat after this week. I was just wondering if possible to see any of the other workshops. So yeah, so we're hoping to have everything recorded, but we'll be in touch with all of you, and we'll be up on social media explaining about all of the recordings in the next couple of days. Catherine says, love Paula's meditation. Thank you so much for being positive morning and so timely as we all face into next week and the return to school. And I think really just coming together as well in those meetings, in those smaller meetings, in the workshops, I think that really helps as well, because you kind of feel like you're not on your own. Because how long has it been since you've kind of come together, even with your own colleagues? I think there's a difference, even with the face-to-face over the years, there's a difference with coming together with a group of educators, people who are of the same mindset at the moment in particular. I think that's really vital. Philippa says, what a wonderful morning to reignite a light that has been dimmed over the past few months. Such inspiring words from all the speakers. Many thanks. Oh, thank you so much for that, Philippa. Grania Mar says that she feels like a new person. Oh, I'm so delighted with that, Grania. So lovely, nourishing. I love that word. Brenda, thank you so much. Andrea says, thanks so much to everyone. I can't wait to listen to all of it again and to refocus and can as we return to school. Thanks, Anne-Marie, for bringing us all together. My absolute pleasure. It's not just me, it was the ESCI, and it was all of our wonderful speakers and facilitators today. Really enjoyed it. Thanks to all of you, Ruth says, for organising. Great way to spend the morning. Absolutely. And look, it's only lunchtime, so you still have lots of time to kind of go back into that, maybe setting us off on the right track with those habits. Louise says, amazing. Thanks so much to everyone. Coming together, superb. Thank you, Anne, and Aisling, so soothing. Thank you so much, and what a lovely word to use. Thank you all so much. Feel focused and anchored. Marguerite, that's exactly our intention. That was our aim for today. So I'm really delighted to hear you use that word anchored, the word nourished, and the word light being used there. Chantel, my body and mind feels so calm. Grace is in class and Paula's meditation were amazing. They are amazing. I've done them myself. Mary says, this was such a great, valuable way to spend a Saturday morning, feel great and ready to go. So what we're going to do is, I'm wondering, we've about 142, so we're still filling up. We're actually going to do a little poll, if that's okay with you, on the webinar before we kind of go into the closing session. It's just 3 very short questions, yes, no, maybe. And Shane is popping the first one up now. Have you found today's event useful? So if you want to just fill that in, and we'll get an idea there of a percentage. Okay, and Shane is going to pop them all into the chat then, so we can see each one. It's just useful for us to get some feedback so that we can improve on the event, you know, and on the support that we're offering to you. We want to improve. We want to know what it means to you. We want to know what you need. I've been connected with teachers, as I said, for about 10 years, school leaders, SNAs, and I was a teacher myself. But really since March 12th, obviously I wasn't going out to schools anymore, but I was still working, connecting in with education centres and on the Teacher Breathing Space Ireland Facebook pages, where you'll find me every single day, many times a day. And all are welcome there, SNAs, school leaders and so on. So sorry, so we found today's event useful. Okay, so maybe we'll go into the next question then, if that's okay, Shane, if you're ready, or if you want to leave it for another few seconds. Okay, so we had 123 there from that poll. Would you like to see another event? That's big numbers for that, so I'm delighted that you found it useful. Would you like to see another event like this take place to support you in the future? Great to see a follow-up. Catherine Byrne says, Trey Salmon says, poll not coming up for me. Trey, so if you click polling, is that how you do it? Shane might pop that into the chat just to see. Oh, sorted. Okay, great, that's brilliant. Teresa O'Hanlon, thank you for the most valuable morning of the past 5 months. You've set my heart alight and my soul full of inspiration, love and light always. Such tremendous support, forever grateful. Teresa, thank you so much for that. Wonderful comment. We have 130, which is a huge number there for our second question, which was, would you like to see another event like this take place? So I think we've an overwhelming yes there. And maybe Shane, we'll move on if we're ready to for the third and final question then. of the event. So would you like to see another event like this take place? Sorry, that was our second poll. So our third poll then, would you prefer support for your well-being to take place during the week, as in the evening time when you come home from school, or on a Saturday? And this is going to be an interesting one for us to find out what would suit you. All of this data is going to be pumped back into the ESCI, back to the education centres, and we're going to try and keep supporting you. So look, we're kind of at 44 for during the week, and we're kind of at 57 on a Saturday. So we're moving 54. So yeah, it's really important that we know when would suit you. But I think we do need to go back. Jacinta had mentioned it earlier about, you know, it's like anything. When self-care is like anything, like, you know, training for a marathon, or, you know, deciding you want to give up smoking, or, you know, a new healthy lifestyle. We have to set the intention, and we have to schedule in for that overwhelm. So I do think that try your best. I know it's so difficult. You're saying, oh no, I've got so much to do, I've preparation planning. But if you see this event come up again, or you see us, you know, coming to you and saying, look, we're here to support the Ignite Your Light with the ESCI, try your very best. Even link in for half an hour. It's online, so, and it will be for probably a few months. So try and link in as best you can. So we're seeing on a Saturday, tipping the poll there at 56%. So you presumably you like it on a Saturday morning. We might link back in with you because it's very close, via email maybe, to do another poll as we move through the weeks, so that we can find out what might suit you once you're back in school. Marisa says, a lovely event. Hi Marisa, really enjoyed the morning. Thanks so much to everyone involved. Keep up the great work. And I love this one from Sinead. Great to feel some connection. The last few weeks uncertainty was so isolating, I thought. It's such a weirdly emotional time. Definitely. If I had to sum the morning in one word, I would say hopeful, which was linking right back into what Jacinta was talking about, going to mantra that today. Jacinta said that hope is essential for us now in moving forward. I hope Jacinta doesn't mind me quoting her on that. Absolutely essential. A realistic hope, a pragmatic hope, but hope nevertheless. So I think we're coming up towards 1 o'clock now, and I'm asking you now, I'm just going to go through a very brief few thank yous, first of all, before we do our candle lighting and ignite that final light. And I just want to say, first of all, first of all, I can't believe we're coming towards the end of the event. It has gone so quickly. I hope that it hasn't gone too quickly for you. I hope you were able to slow down and enjoy it and go gently and lightly, as Vocalese had told us before. So before we light our candle of hope, I just want to say some brief thank yous. First of all, to the Integrated Media Solutions team, to Shane and Leo and Dennis and Patrick and Earl and all of the team who were behind the scenes today. You might have linked in with them at one point, who have been absolutely fantastic before the event, and were so incredibly professional this week and today as well. It was absolutely brilliant. So thank you guys so much. I want to thank my own husband, Padraig Kiley, who has done a lot of work behind the scenes coming up towards the event as well, and built our website for us. So thank you. I'd like to thank Vocalese for contributing their soothing and calming tones, and for rewriting, for going to so much trouble to put their heart and soul into giving the songs we have today the Vocalese treatment, especially for us as educators going back. I'd like to, of course, thank our wonderful speakers and facilitators, Jacinta Kitt, Paula Byrne, Margaret Foley, Grace Tempany and Jack Durkin. You have been fantastic from start to finish. When I first approached you all about doing this, and you've brought your own light to this event, I think everyone will agree on that. So thank you so much for inspiring all of us today. I'd like to especially thank as well Celia Walsh and Siobhan Kavanagh from the ESCI, who have been a huge support to teacher wellbeing, educator wellbeing since March 12th in particular, and for trusting me with a mad idea for today. So thank you so much. And just a special word of thank you to all of the directors of the education centres and all of the education centre admin staff. I've done some work over the pandemic with the centres, and they have just been absolutely amazing. Like all the teachers and school leaders, they just took everything online and made it so easy for all of us to upskill. So thank you so much. And lastly, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for showing up today to ignite your own light. This is obviously something that's very close to my heart, getting emotional now, and I feel very strongly about us as educators valuing us in our hearts, to know that we are so valuable and that our role is so important, not just in a school community, in a local community and in a national community. And I think that that is incredibly important to say to you as we finish today, for you to remember that, and for you to start to recognize that filling your own well or igniting your own light is the only way forward. It is our first step, because we are in a system that needs a lot of change. And I really believe, of everything I have learned, researched, experienced with teachers in wellbeing for the last 10 years, this is where we need to be now, with really not having self-care as some type of luxury or an extra. It is our lifeline now. And I always think of Dr. Suzanne Culshaw, who is a wonderful lecturer and researcher in the UK, and I would have connected in with her on a pre-conference meeting I was asked to do my research recently. And she spoke about, her research is in teachers and their struggles, fascinating research. And she spoke about the broken leg. So if we break our leg, we go to the hospital, the doctor, we get an x-ray, we get a cast or a boot, and we are prescribed recovery time. Now, what happens when we have maybe trauma to this, or we have trauma to this, the heart and the mind, our mental health, our emotional health, but we've no cast, it's not visible, it's silent, it can be silent, but we still need recovery time. And it is okay to have recovery time. If you are resting today and tomorrow, any day, when you come home from school, before school, even during school, if you're taking a minute to yourself to rest, that is not wasteful time. That is productive time for you, because you're recovering, okay? And you are resting the body, particularly at the moment, because there has been huge strain on you as an educator since the pandemic has hit. And so, like the broken leg, even though we can't see it, there needs to be recovery time. You're not going to ask someone with a broken leg to go out and train for a marathon or even walk on their leg. So it is so important to remember that. I just want to say to you as well, link back in with me on Teacher Breathing Space Ireland. I'm there every single day, and I always love to hear from you. So thank you to all of you. Remember that it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to feel overwhelmed. Pause, breathe, recover, and go slowly and gently and lightly with yourself. So now I want to take a few moments to light our candles, if that's okay. So I'm going to light my candle, and if you want to take a nice breath. So just taking a breath now. And we're going to have some music, and we're going to invite some of our panelists now to light their candles. So we're going to take this candle now. I'm just going to light it so you can see it as a symbol.
Yes.
Of our hope.
I can't get my video on. The host has turned me off there.
So just taking a few moments now just to light our candle. I hope you can see my candle here in front of me. So we light this candle today as a candle of hope for us as educators. We light it as a symbol. Our first act of self-devotion to ourselves today was turning up here and valuing ourselves enough. We lit candles in the midst of the pandemic for hope on our national television station. We lit them for those who have passed. And today we light them for ourselves, moving back into reopening our schools and how hard we are working. But we remember that we must ignite our own light first in order to be able to guide the way for others in this darkest time. Let's throw out now the famous quote that a teacher is like a candle or an educator, and that we burn ourselves out in order to guide others. Let's throw out the analogy and create a new one. As we light this candle, we remember our own vocation, our own sense of purpose, the wish within each and every one of us to make a difference to the lives of others. This is a part of our identity as educators, that may have been lost in the rubble of workload, policy, paperwork, and an overburdened system over years and years. Let's reignite that light of purpose now. May we remember to ignite our own light first in simple acts of self-devotion each day that sustains this flame. May this flame be effortless in its strength, that gives us energy, courage, and strength to burn bright every day and spread like wildfire throughout our schools without us ever striving or straining to make that happen. If the light is strong within you, it will be contagious and unstoppable. May this light remind us of our imperfections and vulnerabilities, that we may go easy on ourselves, understanding that from here on in, nothing will be perfect, but will be our best effort, and that is enough. May it remind us of the light in one another and how that light can support us if we can just have the courage to ask for help when we need it. May it bring us together for the greater good, and when we stumble, may the light remind us that we have the strength to rise again, not alone and not in sacrifice, but with one another. May this light remind us how we rose to the challenge from March 12th onwards, and remember how we found strength to upskill, be innovative, and move an entire education system online in support of our pupils, students, and their families. May we acknowledge our courage in that and our professionalism as a cohort. May we understand that we are the shining lights for ourselves first, then for one another, and for those who will look to us to guide them. In the calming and soothing words of John O'Donoghue, may you see in what you do the beauty of your own soul. May the sacredness of your work bring healing, light, and renewal to those who work with you, to those who see you and receive your work. May you be present in what you do. May the day never burden. May you go into the night blessed, sheltered, and protected. May your soul calm, console, and renew you. Thank you to John O'Donoghue for those gorgeous words. May this light, most importantly, be a symbol and a reminder to value our role from this day on. May we remember and anchor in the reasons this role brought us purpose and even joy. As the song in our opening ceremony told us, may we trust in our own wisdom and experience and trust where that leads. May we have faith in ourselves and in each other. It is time to reignite the light of our purpose as educators and reignite the light of trust in one another. My dearest colleagues, go gently and go lightly with yourselves and with each other over the coming weeks. And in the wise words of Dr. Maya Angelou, as I said earlier, do the best you can until you know better, and then when you know better, do better. We move forward knowing that we will do our best with the resources, knowledge, and time and energy that we have, and let that be enough. So now I'm going to ask you to take your candle and put it somewhere where you are going to see it every single day, and just take a breath to meditate on that. Light your candle at home, or if it's safe to do so in your classroom, every single day, and just to remind you of your light and today's light that we brought together as well. So please welcome back now our beautiful singing group, Vocalese, who have rewritten and remastered yet another song for you called Shining Light. I'm sure you'll recognize some of it. And some of the lyrics from this is, you may not see it, you may not always believe it, but you are a shining light. You are a force, you are a constant source. You are a shining light for our education system. So gona íon tú the hullas agus go raithfidh tú go réileat féin. May you ignite your light and go gently with yourself. Slán Macorda agus go nairi an bóthar leat, and we welcome Vocalese.
yeah, you are a shining light. You lit a torch in the empty night, yeah, you are a shining light. Oh, you light up their life. You may not see it, but always believe that you are a shining light. Your lovely presence is sowing the seed, yeah, you are a shining light. Oh, you light up their life. You can make connections by your words and deeds and actions. Every kind of caring intervention, yeah, you will be a shining light. Constellation unseen, in school you'll bring the light in, and epiphany of love so brightly, yeah, you are a shining light. You are a force, you are a constant source, yeah, you are a shining light. Incandescent in the darkest night, yeah, you are a shining light. Oh, you light up their life. We can make connections by our words and deeds and actions, and the kind of caring intervention, yeah, we'll be a shining light. Constellation unseen, in the schools we'll bring the light in, and epiphany will burn so brightly. Oh, we are a shining light, yeah, you light up their life. Oh, you are a shining light.